Okay, we're live again. Let's see. Hello again, ladies and gentlefolks, and welcome to the reading of Mother's Day in Ponyville. Mother's Day in Ponyville by The Only. All the ponies are celebrating Mother's Day, including Applejack. Author's notes. Why did I write this? IDK. Is it any good? IDK. Is it ridiculously generic? Probably. Is it wrong for me to assume that Applejack's parents are dead? Yes. Doesn't mean I shouldn't? No. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. It's 2,000 words just and about. It's really gotten a lot of likes, so I'm just gonna read this, even though it's not on the suggestions list. May 13, Mother's Day in Equestria. It was one of the more secluded holidays, as families would get together and honor their mother. Unlike Hearts and Warming's Eve or Nightmare Night, it wasn't a community event, it was a family event. And sometimes the ponies needed that, a little time to celebrate away from the community. The ponies gathered in houses and had their large meals. Fillies did all the chores that their mom would usually do, cleaning the house and cooking breakfast for their families. Of course, the father would have to help unless they wanted everything to catch fire. Many of the mothers spent their day relaxing or spending the day off in the spa. Some of them went out and get with their families to be together in a picnic or a restaurant meal. They received hoof-made cards from the children and gifts from other ponies. It was a very special day indeed, and it was in no way different than for the ponies, and it was no different for the ponies of Ponyville. Applejack trotted down a long dirt path. The sun was blocked out by some clouds, but the Pegasi would have cleared it soon. It was warm out, not too hot, but not too cold either. Large trees stood on the side of the trail, casting a shade out when the sun came out. Pegasi moved the clouds around in the sky, opening up holes for the sun to shine through, and then they went straight back to celebrating with their mothers. Applejack looked up and saw her destination. She slowly blinked once before resuming her trot. She could not help but think about where all her friends were. Twilight was out in Canterlot with her parents. They were inside the royal castle, having a large feast full of the best daisies, and they have grown in Equestria. Shining Armor's position on the royal guard and Twilight's affiliation with Princess Celestia granted them access to a large dining hall. Ponies wearing chef hats trotted in and out of the room carrying silver plates with a variety of food on them. Twilight's mother sat at the head of the table. Each member of the family spoke to her, saying how much they loved her and the most memorable moments they had with her. Twilight's father had an especially large amount to say to her. After the wonderful meal, they would all go into Canterlot and trot around for a while, allowing Twilight's mother to buy whatever she pleased. They planned to end the day on the top of the mountain, looking at the stars as a family. Shiny Armor had taken the entire day off of the royal guard for the events, appointing another stallion to take his place for the day. Verity hadn't even went away from Ponyville. Her parents had come to visit her in the boutique. As if it weren't obvious and they had gotten there before, Rarity surprised her mother with an expensive trip to the spa. Rarity would be coming with her, of course. Sweetiebelle and her father stayed at the house, spending the day cooking a wonderful dinner, or learning how to cook a wonderful dinner. Sweetiebelle knew nothing about cooking, and neither did her father, so they spent half the day burning every single type of food they could find, and the other half using a cookbook to teach them exactly what to do. When Rarity and her mother came back from a relaxing day at the spa, a delicious dinner would be waiting on the table. That was, of course, if Sweetiebelle and her father didn't eat it first. Pinkie Pie had gone back to the rock farm to meet up with her parents. Ever since she had earned her cutie mark, her parents had lightened up and weren't the strict farm ponies she grew up with. They even had converted the rock farm to an actual farm, where crops grew and the dirt wasn't covered in grey rocks. Since they were just outside Ponyville, they had plenty of room for a picnic. Taking some of the freshly grown crops, Pinkie's sister packed up a basket of vegetables, and the family headed out to enjoy a picnic in the sunlight. They enjoyed the memories of the rock farm and how much their mother had changed since those days. Rainbow Dash was off in Las Pegasus, where her parents lived. She didn't see them very often, but when she did, it was always a lot of fun. Rainbow's mother shared her love for flying, not so much for stunts, however. Unlike most mothers, she preferred to go flying with Rainbow Dash rather than go to the spa or have a picnic. They both despised spas and having their hooves touched. Flying through the sky was the only activity that they could both enjoy together. Afterwards, they planned to go back and have a family dinner, where Rainbow Dash would present the gift she had got for her mother. Fluttershy was visiting her mother outside of Ponyville. She didn't really talk about her parents or give any information about them. They were a shy family and preferred nature over other ponies. With a basket full of fresh food, they set out to have a picnic near a tree, where Fluttershy made friends with all the birds and the bunnies. Her mother joined her, playing with the bunnies and the birds. Fluttershy and her mother shared a love for animals, and they felt at home around them. Underneath the shade of a tree, they ate food and talked, remembering when they used to live in Cloudsdale and when Fluttershy was just a filly. Fluttershy's mom pushed her to be the best at flying, and it was only her that kept her from going to flight school. Once Fluttershy found the ground, her parents had to move to the ground too. After all the food, Fluttershy gave her mother a hug, and they trotted back to the house to enjoy the rest of the day. Applejack passed the fence, the dirt road coming to an end. The sun still hung high up in the sky, shining down on her. Looking up into the sky, Applejack removed her hat and held it by her heart. She looked down at the stone, grey and cracked. It was worn down, the edged illegible after being eroded by snow and rain. Applejack lay down on the ground, placing the hat in front of the stone. She bowed her head down and felt her eyes starting to water up. Even though the words couldn't make it made out, she knew what it said. Even though the words couldn't be made out, she knew what it said. Every Mother's Day, Applejack would visit the grave. She didn't want to stay at home and not celebrate the holiday. It would make it even sadder. The only memories Applejack had of her mother were whatever she could remember when she was a filly. Applejack remembered one Mother's Day when she was able to celebrate with her mother around, embracing her mother and spending the entire day with her, bucking apples and making delicious treats for the entire family to enjoy. Sitting in front of her grave always brought back memories. Applejack refused to cry. Crying wouldn't do any good for her mother. Mother's Day was a day to celebrate, not to mourn, and Applejack knew that. She came to the grave not to grieve, but to remember. The memories that Applejack's mother left with her was all she needed. The influence she had was even greater. Applejack remembered her mother yelling at her, but always for a good cause. Whenever Applejack was scared or sad, her mother would comfort her. In the time that Applejack knew her mother had engraved the memories into her mind that she could never forget. Sorry, that was a bit botched. The physical form may not have been there, but the memories were. Applejack took a deep breath. As long as she never forgot the memories, her mother would always live on. Applejack looked up in the sky, as she always did. Usually when she did so, it would be because she was hopelessly searching for her mother in the sky, but this time it was different. She knew her mother as a filly and loved her, and now that it was Mother's Day, Applejack could celebrate how great of a mother she had been when she was around. Granny Smith would surely have stories of her as a filly. In the years before, Applejack didn't want to hear anything about her mother on Mother's Day. She just wanted to go to the grave, mourn, and not be reminded for the rest of the day. Applejack stared at the gravestone and took in another deep breath. Her mother was still alive, and Applejack knew it. The memories kept her alive. There was no reason to mourn about her loss. She had an uncontrollable smile on her face as tears formed into her eyes, but she refused to cry. She blinked a few times to get rid of the tears. Applejack put a hoof on the tombstone and closed her eyes. The only memory she had playing through her head. There was no bringing there was no bringing her back, and Applejack knew she couldn't. But her mother wouldn't want to spend Mother's Day lying near a grave in mourning. Applejack knew that her mother loved her as a filly, and wherever she was now, Applejack knew that her mother still loved her. The few memories that she had of her mother played through her head. She kept her eyes closed, allowing her mind to drift off in reminiscence. Let's see. Applejack! Sunlight rushed into her pupils. Yeah. Rushed into her pupils as her eyes shot open. Applejack lifted herself off the ground and turned, looking for the voice that called her name. A tall pony came into view. Applejack broke out into a wide grin and let out a high-pitched squeal. She galloped towards the pony as fast as she could, as short as her short legs could take her. Within a moment, Applejack leapt into the air and embraced the pony, her hoofs barely touching the other side of the pony's neck. They held in their embrace for a short while. When Applejack finally let go, she dropped to the ground. Without knowing why, she took a quick glance in the field behind her. It was empty. And then she turned back and gazed into the pony's eyes. "Hello, Applejack," said the pony. "Hello, Mom." And that was the story. So, pretty sad. Sorry for stumbling quite often. Let's see. Next story will be a quarter past the hour. So that's an 18-minute break. See you guys then.